Today on Coalcracker, we're going to take an axe and sharpen it with a permanent marker. What's up guys, Dan here, Coalcracker Bushcraft. So we're gonna sort of do this. You do need a file. Sort of just joking at the beginning, but sort of not, because this is gonna be a vital tool for you first time sharpeners. Now we're gonna use the axe that we got the other day from Harbor Freight for this, because we're getting ready to head out to set up that permanent bushcraft camp with that budget gear that we talked about in the last video. And in order to do that, we need our tools tip top. So it's time to get after it. So we're gonna talk about how to get this thing sharp and ready to go. Now, you might have bought the axe and felt it and thought, wow, that is already sharp, but you can probably make that better. I'm gonna say you can definitely make it better. So that's what this video is going to be about, getting your axe tip top, at least the best we can for one of these axes. You will need a file for this, and then if you're a beginner, I suggest getting a permanent marker for this. It's going to help dramatically. So why are we doing this compared to just taking the axe out? Well, when companies make cheap axes, I mean, this is a cheap axe, let's just face it, cheap axe. The grind on the axe is very inconsistent. So a good grind should be consistent from this edge all the way out to this edge, the same depth, okay, from the edge in, should be the same depth. And then when we look at it this way, both grinds on both sides that make our edge should be consistent and they shouldn't be lopsided. These axes, 99.9999999% of the time are going to be inconsistent. So we can fix that up, clean it up, and then we have ourselves just a better tool. Plus it's a great learning experience for those who never done this, for when you get a higher end axe and you possibly chip it or something needs a little sharpening on it, you're not going to be scared to death to put a file to it. So that's why we're going to do this. Now, with the file, okay, I generally use a mill bastard file, which is a medium grit file, okay. Files only cut in one direction, so we always hold down here, okay, at the rat tail, and when we push forward, that's when the file's cutting. If we draw back, we're starting to ruin the file, so the cutting motion is always forward, we pick up that way. Just so you know, because I know people like to scrub back and forth to get the job done, and that is just not going to help, not at all. All right, so here's what we're gonna do to start this, and this is why the permanent marker comes into play. You can see on the axe where it's all black, it's just painted, okay, it's not hand forged or anything here. And then where it's silver is the grind. That's where they probably painted this, well, not probably, they have painted the entire axe head, and then it goes through, I'm sure, a machine, and the machine just grinds both sides of this off, and that's why you can see the silver exposed, okay. Now, we're not trying to change the grind per se. That means that we would actually change like how deep it goes and all that. We're not trying to do that. We are just trying to make it nice and even and a little bit sharper, okay? So what you're gonna do with your permanent marker, you're gonna take this and you are going to color in, yes, that's right, you're gonna color in all of that silver. And that is going to help you and guide you along the way here in your sharpening process with your file. So I'm gonna fill this in, and then we're gonna get filing. All right, friends, so we are ready to file. I'm just having my axe hang off the edge of a table. Now, for this process, I am going to be filing into the edge, so I need to be somewhat careful. That is definitely a viable way to do this. You can also cut away, but for our sake today, I'm gonna be cutting inward, so just be careful while you do this. Now, the goal here is not just to remove the black. This is a guide for what you are removing, okay? So I'm gonna show you an example of this right now, because this bevel is inconsistent, all right? So if I look at it side to side, meaning if I hold it this way and I look right down this edge, like this bevel and this bevel, they're not even, and we want to try to make that even. So what we're going to do to start is we're going to make this one nice and consistent, and then we're going to match the other side to it. All right, that's going to work best for us. So why we have the black on there is when I file any portion of this, what you're going to see is some of this is now removed. Some of that black is removed. That means that my file, as it passed over here, removed material here, but it didn't remove any material near the edge. Okay, so I'm going to just try to get to the point where I'm consistent, that when I make a consistent stroke across here, I'm removing edge to the back of our bevel. So that is going to do two things. That is going to force me to get the proper angle here and find the right angle across. And then secondly, if there's any high points, which I'm going to assume, because I've done this before, this was probably a high point in here, because generally the ends of the axes here are a hot mess when it comes to the bevel. So that was probably a high point. So as I came across here, okay, I removed some of that material and I'm starting to fix that bevel itself. So we're going to do that again. Cut across here. And now, what you can see is that I was very consistent across here, and then I still didn't get out to the edge. So that means we have a little bit of a hump in this area, okay? Or it could be the angle of the way I'm filing, but I can tell you from experience, because I'm touching this back section here, meaning where it's painted, and I'm taking that off consistently and not hitting the edge, that there's probably a little bit of a hump in there and it's not even. So I'm going to go through here again, a few passes this time. Now what you're going to notice again, see how we're working through this process. Lots of material here that I haven't touched yet, and now I'm touching in the center section here, back to front. And then towards the end, right? Remember I said those trouble areas, we haven't got out to the tip yet, but we made it all the way to the back. So what I want to focus on now is working this front section here, where I'm pointing, and this back section. I don't want to keep working that center section all that much. So I'm going to come in here, a couple passes, and then a couple passes on here. And now all that we have left, it looks like a nick, but it's actually still just that marker, is right there. So I'm just going to work that portion a little bit. Okay, so now all of that's removed. Okay, our blade is that much better. But here's what we want to look for next. And it might be a little bit tough on camera. I'm going to zoom in here on a second. But we don't want it to look like there's different angles filed into our edge. Which right now, depending how I hold this to the light, it does look like there's some different angles. We're going to take our file now and we're going to work out all those little humps or divots. And the reason that they are formed is inconsistency in my filing. So we can get them out now by being more consistent as I travel across. Goal here would ultimately be one file stroke across, and it looks like just a nice sheen, smooth piece, okay? So all I'm gonna do now is lighten up my axe, my hand on my file so it draws better across my axe. And now what I'm noticing is this portion nice and smooth all the way across. I have no secondary type of bevels in the silver, but down in this portion I still do just a little bit. So I'm gonna just work on getting that out. So what I'm thinking almost is it's like I'm blending all of this together, like a nice polish with my file. All right, so now at this point, from this edge to this edge, I have a nice, consistent, smooth bevel that looks really, really nice, okay? Now, we're gonna match the other side the same way. All right, now with some short work, the other side is now complete and we're gonna move on to a reassessment. All right, so now time to reassess our work. So what we're trying to do in an assessment is make sure that side to side is very consistent and that our edge is down the middle of the metal, okay? So all I do for this is imagine you're gonna shoot a gun and you're gonna look right down it, rotate, look down the edge, and what I can tell you by looking at that is we're lopsided, okay? Which this is gonna happen. This is part of the filing process. So this side, okay, is angled like this, and this side is just more steep. So we're lopsided, okay? So to fix this, I need to remove more of this material and bring this edge back this way. So that means this side of the axe, I'm gonna color this in again. And then what I wanna do is that same process that we just did. I wanna remove all all of that marker material, and when I do that, I'm going to then come back for another reassessment. That should, over time, push that edge back. Now, we don't want to remove too much material because we can then go this way and be lopsided the other way. So this is a little bit of a slow process, but trust me, the more you do this, the better you get at this. And I'm going to say I'm probably good enough at this point in my career. This will be just about the last one and we'll be good to go. All right, the edge is all colored in, so I'm going to start with my file process. Now, remember, if I did this properly in the last step, I should have a nice smooth surface all the way across. So I shouldn't have to get out any of those imperfections at this point. So I should have nice long strokes pretty much across the entire blade every single time and see it very consistently removing that marker material, which that is what I'm seeing. So what I'm also seeing is a little bit yet down in this corner of magic marker left, so that's telling me most likely it's, I'm going to say probably me, but I probably have a little low point there, so I'm going to just focus on that 1 or 2 strokes to get that cleaned up. And I'm going to make these nice long strokes across here, again removing all of that marker, and then as I get towards the end here, I'm just going to lighten up the process of how hard I'm pressing the file. Again, blending that so I don't see any secondary bumps or bevels in there. If I do, you just got to work through it. All right, now back to the assessment board. So we're going to go right down, and I can tell you this time we are like dead on. At least very, very close. I still have a little bit of problem area in this section, so what I can do is I can go clean that up, and that is something that is just going to take some time because the factory really had that edge right here, this portion really messed up. So I'm going to go in there now without the magic marker because at this point I know what I have to fix. Okay, so I'm going to go in, I'm just going to fix that, but as I rotate this through on my assessment, we are spot on the rest of the way. So I'm going to fix this up. Now, if you do have edges, like for example, this top edge, okay, it's sort of rounded off. It's not to a nice point up here. That's one of those things you got to just live with. Again, it's not the highest quality axe. This little edge that got rounded off when they were grinding it is not going to be the end of the world. Can we add an edge there? Yes, absolutely. Do we need to? Probably not. I'm going to say don't worry too much about it. But since we have this nice edge down here, I'm going to work this, get it squared away, and then we're going to test this bad boy out. Alright, so we're bushcrafters. We don't have to chop down big trees. Small saplings, a little bit bigger than our thumb, are generally the most that we're ever going to deal with. So I just grabbed an old piece of wood I had laying over here that's just that size, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to buck it, meaning cut it to length, and then we're going to split it a little bit. If it works real well, great. If it seems like it's a hot mess and my axe is just bouncing off of it, then we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and reassess. So let's first see if it works, and then we'll talk about how to reassess if something bad is going on with this. So just bucking this thing up. First of all, really good penetration there for this axe. Okay, get it this way. So with 2 hits, we're about 1 inch deep into that wood, so we're pretty good here. So 4 hits, we're splitting out really nice stuff. And then next we're going to think about, hey, we just got to split this piece in half. What's that looking like? So that's working really well, I can tell you already. If I had some more skill level here. So really nice and easy there. And then if we were just splitting this way, perfect, look at that. Cutting down, working great. And then lastly, can make some shavings because that's something we're going to have to do at some point, and that is definitely making some nice curls for me. So you can see over with a couple strokes. Now, not the best piece of wood here for this, a little bit of rot and a little bit of dampness to it, but overall making some really nice stuff. Look at that, some curls, some fine shavings, looking really good. This thing is definitely winning. All right, guys, and there you go. That's how we take our axe and sharpen it with a Sharpie. Yes, we did use a file, but it's a fun, easy way, and it's a little hack that you can use to get your blades tip top. But a great tool for the toolbox in order to get the job done. Now, you might be thinking, well, what about a stone? What about a strop? Do we need axes? Honestly, with a file, it's more than enough. You saw everything we did with that. You can keep this thing well maintained. It's an impact tool, so you don't have to take it to that razor edge the way we do our knives or pocket knives. This thing is going to get the job done time and time again, so I wouldn't worry too much about that stone. Use your file, get it where you need it, and then down the road you can always hone it with the stone a little bit more if you're at camp. But for our purposes, this is all you need to do. All right, so if you like this video, hit like and subscribe. Also check out last video, because that's the one we talked all about this gear and why we're using this stuff and why we're headed to Great Outdoors to set up a more permanent style bushcraft camp, and we're going to be using just that stuff in the kit to do that. So I want you to check all that out, and I want you to hit like and subscribe. Did I say that? Like and subscribe, Coalcrackerbushcraft.com, classes, gear, blog, all that good stuff. And then until the next video, stay sharp and stay in the woods.